What's up, everybody? Couch Mills here, coming at you with a brand new Valorant video. And in this video, I'm going to be breaking down the top 5 characters for easy Immortal right now. If you want to get to Immortal with ease, you want to climb incredibly quickly, then this is the perfect video for you to tell you the 5 agents that you should be playing if you want to climb. But go to the GameLeap website for tips, tricks, guides, and advanced content made by Immortal Plus players. Do yourself a favor and go check it out right now down below. Now, while we're talking about 5 characters in this list, it's going to be from every single role, so don't worry. Regardless of what role you main, you'll find a character for you. Starting off with the 5th character, a character you absolutely gotta master if you want to get to Immortal, and it's Raze. Now, Raze is very unique in the way that she attacks any enemy composition. Because her abilities are very unique and the playstyle that you can incorporate is also unique, there are a lot of really powerful things you can do with Raze. First off, using her to take space on point can be even more effective than trying to push it aggressively with someone like Reyna or Jett, where you have to clear every single corner yourself, and in a lot of cases, you're taking a 50-50 gun duel. With Raze, you get to flush certain aspects of the point out. Between your nade and your boombot, you can force enemies to swing out when they're uncomfortable, either getting free damage on them or taking an advantaged gunfight with them. You're never fighting fair when you're playing Raze. And while I don't necessarily think lineups are absolutely necessary, with Raze in particular, learning easy grenade spots that can clear a certain section of the site, and then learning a boombot lineup that can clear a second area of the site allows you to isolate where the enemies are either flushed to or force them into unfair engagements. And that makes Raze one of the most powerful characters at taking space and taking control of points. And especially in ranked, you add that to the flexibility of the movement that you are provided with your blast packs. Raze is one of the best characters to climb with, period. She's insane on eco rounds. She gets a ton of value with her abilities. And yeah, all in all, definitely learn Sage. You're gonna climb with her. Now, the next character that we gotta talk about for easy Immortal is none other than Breach. Now, Breach is one of the most powerful characters on Fracture, and he's definitely a character that you should be running there. But in general, especially on ranked, Breach can be an absolute nightmare to deal with. One of the best things about him is, in a similar way to Raze, he forces enemies out of areas and he can clear a site without having to physically look and clear it. You get to actually force enemies out of potential cubbies, and if they stay there, they die, and if they swing out, you have an advantage. You get to stun and swing, and you have flashes to take op angles. You combine it all together, and you have a character that is perfectly capable to create easier executes for you and your team on deploy. And I think that Breach is one of those characters that, especially if you master, you can make life a living hell for enemies. And especially when we're talking about climbing through Plat and Diamond, right? There are oppers everywhere. There are chamber players everywhere. And it's so goddamn annoying to deal with op after op after op, and Breach's flash is so efficient at forcing those away. You could trade one flash for a teleport, for instance, get people out of there, or one flash for a dash from Jett, and that's gonna allow you to really trade favorably with your abilities. And I do think that Breach's ultimate in particular is an amazing ultimate for retake as well. All in all, definitely a character worth putting the time and effort in if you want to get to Immortal with ease. Now, the next character that we gotta talk about is absolutely Viper. Now, there's a lot of controllers that are actually viable right now, specifically Omen and Brimstone. Both have their places in the meta, but Viper in particular is incredibly powerful at a number of different things, and there are certain things that you need to learn if you want to climb to Immortal with the character, so we're gonna talk about her. Now, outside of the traditional stuff that you need to know, like proper wall setups and things like that for executions, I think more important than that is learning how to properly utilize your smoke bar. Remember that you need to have that up at the appropriate time, and let's say you're trying to hit a site, for instance, right? And the enemies are popping a whole bunch of utility, they're smoking the choke point, and they're using just a ton of things to stall you. That's the time to pull that wall down, save that resource to be ready to execute the second the utility runs dry. I also think that during this time, really great Vipers are going to keep track of the types of utility that is being used, how many smokes were dumped, how many slows were dumped, and it's gonna better allow you to try to utilize your abilities at the appropriate time, coordinate and call executes, and know when you can mind games the enemy because they are out of utility and they are thinking that you're gonna execute right now. You raise the wall, and then you rotate off, and they're completely lost because you timed it perfectly. Now, one of the biggest mistakes that I have seen specifically like high diamond Vipers do, Vipers that just are struggling to get to Immortal, right? This is the mistake that I see most often, and it's Vipers that are just way too aggressive, way overly aggressive, especially on defense. Remember, especially when you're on a map where you need to be alive to execute it, like Breeze, for instance, or you need to be alive to potentially retake with your team because you have the LOS denial. You can't afford to be overly aggressive. Now, I'm not saying you can't mix it up every once in a while, but it should be so unexpected that enemies are completely caught off guard by it, and then you just don't do it again, maybe even for the rest of the game. Because at the end of the day, playing this character means that you have a great deal of impact with your abilities, but you need to stay alive, and oftentimes you need to be the last one alive on your team. So get used to clutching up because you might need to. And the next character that we need to talk about, number 2, one of the most powerful characters, especially in ranked right now, but he's freaking nuts in pro play as well, and it's KO. KO is a character that I absolutely adore, and I think he's just primed to be one of the best characters in the game going forward. The thing about KO is his flashes, when used properly, when properly timed out of a smoke to where they just barely peek out of a smoke and pop, or they just barely peek out of the corner and pop, the enemies can't react to it. It doesn't matter how fast they are, it doesn't matter at all. They're like the only flash in the game that if you use it perfectly, the enemies are just completely freaking screwed. And there's so many mix-ups involved with KO. You can do great flash after great flash, and then all of a sudden, maybe you throw a long flash, like one that doesn't pop right away. Enemies turn on it, or try to, or maybe they spray, and you can just catch them completely off guard. There's so many mix-ups you could do just with the flash ability that makes KO one of the best duelists, even though he's not a duelist. I mean, you just get to take favorable engagement after favorable engagement with those flashes. And then in addition to that, you have an information gathering ability in your knife that you get to use to stop rushes, gather information, and it's just so freaking powerful. But there is one thing that I will tell you about KO that you need to make sure to do. If you're in a situation where you used your knife, you got some information, maybe you took an early duel, and then the enemies are still pushing onto site, oftentimes, it's better as KO to back off, wait for your team, and wait for that cooldown to come back, that knife cooldown, to allow you and your team to re-execute a retake onto site with the knife, with the info, and denying the enemy their ability use, because you got to remember that you're exchanging that time for a more clean engagement, and at the end of the day, if you wait, still kill the enemy and have time to defuse, it doesn't matter if you waited it out rather than just trying to rush in and then potentially dying and not having that really powerful bit of utility. And it's also really important to keep track of different types of ultimates that enemies could have that you could shut down. Remember, Chamber, you could shut down his ultimate, Jet, Raze, Neon. There's a lot of characters that you could just completely shit on if you find out where they are and you hit them with the knife or you pop your ultimate. And that can be amazing because imagine if you're like ready to push a site, right? And the Chamber pops his ultimate, but you looked pre-round, you saw he had an ultimate, but your plan is to just pop ultimate, flash in, and then rush. Now all of a sudden the Chamber might have not bought a weapon and he's completely freaking screwed because he does not have a weapon anymore because you took it from him. And then you just don't peek his op. When he gets it back, you take site control, easy clap. Anyways, that's just one example of why Chamber is so freaking strong, and you could easily climb to Immortal with him. Now, the last character that we got to talk about, and this is kind of the elephant in the room, but he just has to be mentioned, and it's Chamber. Chamber is phenomenal. When you got streamers popping off and climbing to freaking Immortal, only using Chamber's abilities, you need to pay attention, because this character is absolutely nuts. Not only can you just get so many kills as a goddamn sentinel in the game, a sentinel, but you get to rotate incredibly quickly. You have a crazy operator where if you get good with, you can utilize it on attack and defense like no other and really just completely pop off and shred. I mean, Chamber just gets you so much clutch potential through every round, through every eco. You have the potential to just pop off and carry, and it really pushes your mechanical skill to the absolute limit, allowing you to impact so much of the game. I really do think that Chamber just might be the best character to climb And that's probably period. If you are the best player in the lobby and you're on Chamber, you're probably gonna fucking carry that game. And Chamber's an absolute menace. I do know that he's gonna be hit with the nerf sometime soon, but until then, abuse the hell out of him, and honestly, probably afterwards, still abuse the hell out of him because he is free RR right now. Almost every single game I'm playing in Immortal right now, actually pretty much every single game has a goddamn Chamber on like both sides. So yeah, definitely you need to be locking this character, and yeah, you gotta climb. But definitely let me know if you agree or disagree with my list down below, and tell me what characters you think are the easiest to climb to Immortal with right now. I really want to hear your responses down below, and the GameLeap website is the best place to pop off and dominate with in-depth tips, tricks, guides made for Immortal Plus level players. Do yourself a favor and go check it out right now down below.